Yo, welcome everyone to another episode of Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journeys which founders take. This episode we have Dr. Josephine Muir and Dr. Mary Webberley, the founders of Noisy Guts, which is on a mission to improve gut health. Welcome Joe and Mary, thank you so much for joining us on Weird Growth.
Thank you, thanks for having us.
It's great having you here both. Please introduce yourselves and how have you come to do what you do?
Go for it. Okay. I'm Mary Webberley. I am a scientist, a happy scientist turned founder, I think. So
happy scientist.
Happy
nice.
scientist. So I still enjoy the science, but being a founder gives me, I guess, more creative outlets as well. So I'm happy to have made that transition and to have something out in the world which is helping people.
Yeah. Good on you.
My name is Josephine. I'm the CEO at Noisy Guts. And how did I get here? A lot of incremental steps. I think I got lost and turned right. But both Mary and I found ourselves working at the Marshall Centre for Infectious Diseases at UWA, which is where we met, researching and managing research related to gut health. And that brought us here.
So good. So before we get stuck into your story and dig into the growth journey, I have a pop quiz for you. If theoretically you were just to start everything from scratch again from day one and create a new business, what would it be and who would you be helping?
Ooh. Well, there's two sort of elements to that. What would it be? I guess the commercial side of me would be saying something with massive margins. Yeah. So that would be, I don't know, apparel or beauty or something like that. But that's not really who we are because we want to be helping somebody. So it would probably still be in the health space or in the education space where you can make some money, but you can also offer real value to people and really help people, I guess. Would be in that space.
Yeah. I love this question, Cam. I think, the CEO part of my brain goes for don't worry about the product, forget that. Think about a novel way of getting to the market, make sure your cost of acquisition's low, think about margins, think about profit, think about product market fit. The founder in me and the human in me is really attracted to solving wicked problems and challenging problems that I personally have faced or I am facing, because that way I can really understand the problem. So if I was starting over today, the startup would reflect things I'm currently going through. So that's either gut health, because, it's a lifelong struggle for me. Yep. Or it would be the challenges I'm currently facing living and caring for someone with dementia.
Wow, yeah, right.
Cam, what would you do?
Oh, no one's ever asked the question back to me.
Dum, 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 dum.
None of us want to give away our little ideas that we've got.
Well,
in the back of our
as
mind.
a founder, you always do have little things on the boil at the back of your head,
But you see so many startups throughout Perth all the time.
Yeah.
So what would that inspire you to do if you walked out of Ammo tomorrow?
Yeah, I always think about that product market fit problem, and it's something that we see so often is people who are super passionate about their solution but not having the connection necessarily to their customers or to their market. And I think it would be something in that space which helps people to really channel that passion by way of helping them connect with their market so much better and giving them, I guess, the framework or the pathway where they can be confident that they know that by building this business, there's a massive sort of group of customers shouting the door down to buy it. And I think that's something that breaks my heart is when you do see that passion go to waste sometimes. Well, not go to waste, but it's more painful and more difficult than maybe it needs to otherwise be. Yeah. So I think it would be something solving that product market fit issue at scale.
Yeah. Nice.
So who knows what that might be. But thank you for asking back. So what's the problem that you are solving with Noisy Guts?
So with Noisy Guts, we started with, initially we started with a 9-year-old girl who had a troublesome gut. We thought that she had irritable bowel syndrome, but the only way of confirming that really was to do a colonoscopy to rule out all of the structural issues. But, that's a really hard call to subject a 9-year-old to a colonoscopy. So that got our boss, Prof. Marshall, thinking about alternative ways that we could diagnose irritable bowel syndrome. And Mary and I were fascinated with IBS. It's affects so many people. We think now, up to 1 in 5 in Australia. And as we've gotten to know our customers, people with IBS, IBD, Crohn's, colitis, celiac, we really empathise with their daily struggles, with the diets that they experiment with. And even today I had someone, telling me that they've got a magical cure if I take their product, and I just think, that's lovely. That's sweet.
Yeah. And so talking about wicked problems, that is something which there's just so many variables and not a whole lot of really clear understanding about. Is that what a wicked problem, what you mean by that?
I think with wicked, it's because there's not one treatment pathway that suits everyone with IBS. Okay, yeah. So there's not a magical pill. I wish there was. And because of the complexity of our anatomy, it's not just about changing a diet. It's also about sleep. It's also about mindfulness and managing your stress. It's also about moving your body. It's really complicated. So there's not a simple solution. If there was, I'd be a millionaire.
But we do like to fall back on, the science that does exist. Yes. What does that tell us? And there has been plenty of clinical trials of a diet called the low-FODMAP diet, which is a diet many of your listeners may have heard of, but it's about removing fermentable short-chain carbohydrates, various groups, from your diet, and then gradually reintroducing them to work out which ones trigger these IBS symptoms, which are really unpleasant gut symptoms, and then adapting your diet so that you can remove the ones that are a problem, keep the ones that aren't, so you've got as variable a diet as possible. And that can help 70% of people with this condition of irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. So, we can kind of latch onto that. There's lots of snake oil out there, but there's multiple clinical trials being conducted about this diet and how effective it is. And it does genuinely help people. So that's what the scientist in me is saying, okay, so we've got a product, tastes great, but does it actually help people? And we haven't actually mentioned what the product is yet, but...
Well, what does it mean, so irritable bowel syndrome, what does it mean for the patients who suffer it, without wanting to be too graphic or anything, but it's obviously it really impacts their quality of life? Yeah,
it does, because their symptoms are quite embarrassing and hamper people's ability to go out and about and go to work or go to school or just enjoy life. So it's diarrhea or constipation or a mix of the two. Yeah. It's bloating and it's pain, and... yeah, it's debilitating.
Not fun.
Not fun at all.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Well, good on you, and it's actually comforting to know that two extremely smart ladies like yourselves are fighting that for people. It's really nice to see. Well done. How did you reach your very first customers, or have you reached your very first customers yet, or how does that work?
Well, I think we're skirting around the issue here, aren't we? We started off working on a diagnostic for this condition because it's difficult to diagnose. Right. It's quite invasive. So we tried an approach of using analysis of sounds to get at that. We found there were significant differences between the sounds produced by people with nice healthy guts and others that are sort of gurgling and churning with all these different symptoms. But there wasn't enough difference for the diagnostic accuracy to be quite high enough. We're working on another approach in the background, which does look more promising. That's still brewing away. We said we've got a few different ideas for what else we might do in the future. But in the meantime, we've worked on this food product that can help with all the symptoms of IBS. So whilst we were doing all that work on diagnostics, we just got deeper and deeper into thinking about the problems that people were facing with IBS, and is there a convenient food product that can solve the problem of, is there one meal a day that can be really easy for me to prepare? Is there a product that I can take away with me if I'm going on holiday or travelling for work, or if I'm stuck at work and there's no easy, there's no sandwich shop that's got low-FODMAP bread and low-FODMAP.
So these were the problems I was facing every day. And if I don't eat, I get very hungry and hangry, and the team then suffer because I'm,
Oh, yeah. I know people who get hangry if they haven't eaten for a little while, yeah. I think we all do in our lives.
So, and sometimes I'm just not organised enough to have, lunch pre-prepped. And when you're following a low-FODMAP diet, you can't eat sorbitols or onion, garlic, tomatoes,
avocado, weird things, really
weird
healthy things that everybody else takes for granted.
It was nice to have a backup shake that I could just have that would fill me up, get me through until I'm home, and that that wasn't going to cause excessive farting or bloating or uncomfort.
Yeah.
So it was really a problem I was trying to solve for myself, and Mary and I think we tried every product on the market. So that was kind of fun, and then we started developing our own. I think I remember those early days around the kitchen sink at the Marshall Centre, and it was hilarious because one of our machine learning experts would walk past and we'd try and get them to drink something, and they'd be like, so we had some fun in the early days trying to formulate something that tasted good. So how did we find that first customer? I think I know who our first customer was, but initially, we went via Facebook, and I was pretty convinced that if I could convert my husband, who's a meat and 3 veg kind of guy, who was having a meal replacement shake for lunch, because to try and help him stop snacking through the afternoon, which is, he just works and snacks all afternoon. If I could convert him to stop using the El Cheapo product he was getting from the grocery store that was full of artificial sugars and giving him this huge sugar rush and then boof, if I could convert him to using our protein, fibre and probiotics, then I knew that we'd find more customers because he's rather particular, is he not, Mary?
He is. I mean, I'm not sure he's our target customer.
No, he's not, but I knew if I could convince him, we'd be onto something.
Yeah, nice. You've been at this a number of years, solving the problem from different angles. You started off, as you said, with diagnostics, sort of sensing kind of tool, which would then use that data to decide whether or not the likelihood of IBS was there. And so you've hit some challenges, I guess, with proving that up, and you're still working on it in the background. And then what you're saying is that you've pivoted potentially into this shake product to solve the problem from a different angle, I suppose.
Make life easier for people.
What was that? How did that feel at that point? How did you come to that decision, and how did it feel?
Yeah, I remember when we were doing an accelerator, one of the first ones we'd done, and Ian Brown showed this slide, and it was, it's used in a lot of accelerators, and it says something like, starting a startup feels like jumping off a cliff and then building the parachute way out. And we've had a couple of those moments, but the first time I think was when Mary and I decided to hold hands and jump off the cliff together, spinning tech out of UWA. But certainly with Flora and starting a functional food business, that was another one of those moments where, we're going to jump again, perhaps in a different direction. So it was definitely... It was
definitely a new learning experience. So learning a whole new area of, I guess, the regulatory space was quite different. The path to market was very different from what we'd been working on.
And with medtech, there are these things called customers, and we certainly knew that they were out there.
Or patients,
one day.
I guess, isn't it?
But they're
so far away.
And with medtech, you can't go and test the product on them. I mean, we were doing clinical trials, of course, but you can't say to someone, what would you pay for this? Because it's all really hypothetical. So these customers were these things that lived, were on the business plan and in the timeline, but they were so far down the track. What I love about having a functional food business is, we've got a product, let's go.
You can give it to your husband.
Yes. And you can test it, and it can be really agile. Is it sweet enough? Do you like this? Do you like that? And you can change and adapt and grow so quickly. And so customers are these real things. We went to the markets, a farmer's market recently with some protein balls, and people will eat them in front of you and then tell you what they think. And if they like it, they give you money. So there's this instant,
completely different world to medtech research.
So different, where medtech is, design something and wait, and hopefully you'll see a customer at the end of it.
What gave you the confidence to jump off the cliff for a second time together?
Well, we knew that we worked together well as co-founders. I think that was we'd been through some highs and lows at that point, so we knew that we worked well together, complemented each other, or where there was similarities, at least we knew, we backed each other up, and we've got the same values and work well together. So that was easy. And then I guess what made it easy is we were excited about the product. We actually really loved the product. So, and although I guess there was gut churning disappointment about where we weren't going, we were excited about this new product that we knew people could really benefit from.
Yeah, and I think the first time we jumped off a cliff, we held hands, and whilst it was scary, there was a 1, 2, 3, let's go. Mm-hmm. I think the second time we jumped off a cliff, there was less involuntary or voluntary jumping. I think it was like, oh shit.
Yep.
We need to pivot, and we need to pivot now.
We'll do something.
But a belief that we both held in ourselves and in each other, that we'd come too far, that we'd learned so much about gut health. We could, we had the science behind us. So I guess there was that feeling that we didn't want the journey to end, and we knew that we could still offer value to patients and to customers. So whilst while we may have been pushed off the cliff the second time.
Oh no, we jumped with abandon, didn't we? I think we just went. I think we were very excited that we got a product that we could actually get in people's hands right then and there.
Yeah.
Rather than the rigmarole of meeting all the standards and the reg requirements
it's so clever.
medtech.
Yeah, well done. And that's the really cool thing about this sort of thing we call startup, I suppose, is there's no wasted effort in one direction or another. No. It's all learning. It's all learning. And the faster you can learn and the closer you can get to your customers to learn, the better you're going to be. Right?
I think we'd learned that along the way. We'd done quite a few accelerators with the tech product. You've since done an accelerator with a food product, but there's a feeling of, and I think one of our advisors did say to us, come on, stop doing bloody accelerators and just get out there and do it. And you do actually learn so much more from doing than all the lean canvas kind of processes. I mean, I'm very much one for sorting out all your numbers beforehand, working out if it stacks up or not. But at some point, you've just got to go. I mean, you could ask people, do you want this product? And they go, yeah, but you actually don't know until, as Josephine says, they put money in your hand.
What people say and what they do are two different things.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you think are the benefits of accelerators?
Well, we've got to remember, we were coming from a background of researchers and scientists.
And so I assume one of them was CSIRO on program.
The CSIRO on program was amazing for us. Really, really.
And I love that one as well. I'm a mentor I have been in the past, and there's probably a whole different breed of researchers separate to what you guys have with your business acumen and things, who have never probably left a lab and have never talked to a human
that was us,
a customer,
though.
Right?
That
so
was
you've been through
us.
that journey. Okay. Yeah.
So we had, I did this thing called Start Something EWA.
Oh right.
And that kind of lit a little fire. As a result of winning something there, I won a place at Ignition. And while I loved Ignition, I love going to Ignition now, I was having to go home each day and then relay everything to Mary. And it was great for me, but it wasn't great for team building. Yeah. So when CSIRO's on Prime and Accelerate came along, the whole team did it.
That team,
and that was better because we were all learning at the same time. I think too, what else have we learned from accelerators? We've got amazing mentors along the way. Yeah. And what I love about the mentors is, even going back to Cheryl Frame from Ignition, and that was many years ago, and Greg Reeby, there's still people we could hop on the phone today, say, Cheryl, I've got this problem, can you help? And they would pick up the phone.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing about our community, isn't it?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit more about medtech in general and what it takes to take medtech from the lab to the market. What is it in Australia in particular? What should people know before they start down that journey?
Do your record keeping right from the start, I think, for the standards and the the ISO 13485 standard for...
That sounds riveting.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. Remember that lovely workshop we did, clause by clause of going through the standard.
2 days, and I had to say to Josephine, "Oh my God, I think I'm going to stick needles in my I'll do the second day." It was.
But we talk about so medtech has the ability to change people's lives,
It does.
I think in Australia we have an amazing medtech industry, I suppose, and we're very lucky to benefit from that as well. But it's not an easy path.
It's not, and there's a good reason for that, because these are devices or tech. There's sort of software as a medical device as well as physical devices that are either being used as a treatment or as a diagnostic, some kind of intervention in people's health. And so there's a potential for harm. So they're very well regulated, and quite rightly so. So that means that you need to put it simply, you need to be doing some clinical trials to prove that they do what they do and they don't cause harm, and you need to keep records from all of that. You also need to be able to have standards for how you're testing these things and then producing them later on and manufacturing them, so that they're manufactured the same standard as those devices that you actually did the clinical trials with, so that you can be sure that the device that ends up in the clinic or at home with somebody being used in a health way actually does what it claims it does, and it doesn't do any harm. So that's why there's so many hurdles. It's really important, but
and I think people told us this is going to take longer than you think and double the amount of money, probably quadruple the amount of money. But I think you need to balance that with it's really, really hard, but you don't want to go into that telling people that you need a huge amount of optimism, hope, and don't beat it into them how hard this is going to be. You just got to keep that optimism, and we can do this. Enthusiasm.
And what I always said was that some of those regulatory hurdles are actually really beneficial for a business, because they create a moat against the competition.
Right.
It's quite hard for somebody else to do a clinical trial and gather all that data and do all that hard work. So if you have got something that works and works well and is going to have a real benefit for people, if you can see how there's going to be a monetary model that's going to work for that, is the patient going to pay for it, or is the hospital going to pay for that? GPs won't put their hands in the pockets for it, likely. No. But if you can see a model where you're going to be able to build a business around it, then go for it, because you can create life-changing tech.
We always do like to see the positive silver linings and things. So,
You've got to be a little bit mad, I guess, to just get into it head on, and good on you. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about Super Flora and what you're learning there from a marketing point of view. It's great to hear that you've been down the farmers markets and just having conversations, but how do you take that to the next level?
Yeah, so we've been out with Super Flora for over 12 months now. About 80% of what we do is direct to consumer through our website, and the other 20% we've been trialling the product through a number of different stockists, pharmacies versus select IGAs versus health food stores, just to see, do some experiments around where does it best fit.
Yep.
One of the things about having a product on a shelf is that, it has to sit on that shelf by itself. Mary and I aren't there spruiking it. The fact that we have PhDs doesn't jump out and hit someone on the head when they walk past, walk down an aisle. So we certainly have learned a lot about where it
I think we've learned a lot about branding. I think that's kind of what encompasses that whole thing, is that, you've got to have the brand and then the different marketing channels. And I think I think we started out thinking it would be a direct-to-consumer e-commerce play, and definitely that's where it started out. And what's great about that is we do get communication with the customers that way, and we understand them, and we can send out surveys and find out more from them about what they want. But change has happened in e-commerce over the last year or so. The whole change of the iOS 14 and other changes with Apple mean that acquiring customers doesn't have the same cost as it used to. I think the glory days have gone for that. So we've worked out that we, the e-commerce bit will probably always be a bit of a core for us, so that we own the customer there, as it were, and we're in close contact with them. But spreading out and going to the other retailers that's our way that we'll grow, isn't it?
Yeah, so just to explain that a little bit more, in March, the changes to Facebook meant that we couldn't target people based on particular health conditions.
Right.
And, when you're selling a low-FODMAP, gluten-free product that might suit celiacs or someone with
the word
colitis.
celiac's been removed and the word FODMAP's been removed.
You can no longer target those people. So it made the effectiveness of those ads a lot less for us.
We just had to change the strategy of how we do those. So we've adapted, we've learnt. We had an amazing mentor and sort of guru in that space that really helped us with, it's one move from science to developing a med tech, but then jumping into having marketing our own product, we needed some help with that. So we went out and...
Well, actually, it was because we were going to the Morning Startup. And through there, heard a presentation by Jürgen van Pletsen. And kind of in the back of our minds thought, if we ever had any money, we'd certainly go and hire him. Then we applied for an innovation voucher, so 20K. So we were able to get Jürgen on board. And what we liked about that was we're very much of that mindset of teach someone how to fish, just don't feed them. So Jürgen was able to teach us rather than just do it for us.
Love that.
And that's just worked. That's just how we like to work. We know that we're not experts in everything. But, nothing that what we've done is rocket science. And when we were at CSIRO, we met rocket scientists and we don't, this stuff isn't rocket science and we can learn it.
Yeah,
with a good
I think that's great
mindset.
advice to anybody. That is. You mentioned the branding. How did you go about deciding on what to call it and the look and feel and things like that?
We did that, I think everybody does this. You try and have this avatar or whatever of your
customer personas, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. How many times did we do that? And sat down and did some sessions. And
that's your customer persona, Nadine?
Nadine.
Tell me about Nadine.
Well, we're going to tell you a funny story about Nadine because we were so focused on Nadine, this mid-30s woman, maybe your mum. She does a bit of yoga, she, tries to look after herself, She
wears Lululemon.
Yeah, wears Lululemon. So we got so far down the rabbit hole with Nadine, only to notice that Nadine's mum, and that's what we call her, Nadine's mum, is actually a little bit older. So she's not as sensitive to mortgage rate rises because she's still working full time, but financially she's more set. She accepts and absolutely puts health first because she's seeing her parents ageing and she doesn't want to age like that. So she's got money to spend on health. She's interested in wellness. She's not as, sensitive to mortgage rate rises or what's happening with the economy.
She's heard of Professor Barry Marshall.
She's heard of Barry. And she's a loyal customer and she gets into these routines of using our product every day. We love Nadine's mum, but it was hilarious because, Nadine and our avatar of Nadine, this customer, was all we thought about until... we surveyed and realised that Nadine's
and we should just, since we're talking about branding, we should talk about Brett Ianello, kind of seemed to be able to see in our minds and think he helped us with the logo and all the
Brett was amazing in terms of I think Mary and I are quite visual. We've got to see it. Well, I definitely have to see it. It's nice when someone can go inside your brain and say, do you mean this?
Yeah.
It's exactly what I meant,
Nice.
I like that.
So you talk about surveying to discover Nadine's mum. What did you do there? Were you just surveying Nadine's or were you just talking to people who were buying things off your e-commerce store or at the farmer's market? How did you come across that?
So what I started noticing is that because I'm very stingy, if people order around where we are, I will go on home deliver, and that provides me with an opportunity to meet them at the door, look at their houses, meet the dogs, meet the kids in the backyard, and have conversations. Hey, why, what's happening with your gut at the moment? And so we started, noticing that when I'm rocking up, I'm not seeing the toddler bikes or I'm not seeing the soccer mum's car anymore. I'm meeting a much older woman.
It's a bit bimodal though, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. But we've recently gone out with a Survey Monkey just this week, looking at our loyalists, our faithful customers who keep coming back. Another segment, which are those who have bought from us, but buy from us occasionally, but not in this monthly routine, and also those who have bought from us once and have never come back. Just to try and get some insights around Yeah, well, we asked a whole range of questions, but to try and get some insights into their consumer behaviour, what they want from us. Are we meeting their expectations? You know, we put a huge premium on sustainable packaging. We use zip form packaging and we love it. But would you buy it if it was in plastic?
Is that a decision breaker?
Yeah.
What other questions do you find are useful for that sort of questionnaire?
Well, I want to know where those that have got the, just sort of, not to talk about them as people, but as customers, those with that large lifetime value, the ones that keep coming back, where are we actually acquiring them from? Where are they hearing about us? Because that's obviously where we want to put our marketing spend. So I think, there's a bit of chicken and egg there. It's going to be, where we've put the money to start off with is where we're going to be finding them. But, that's interesting to us. And I think, we're not going to be finding our customers on TikTok, put it that way. We're kind of pretty sure about that. But there was some surprises there as well. So we thought it'd be Facebook or Instagram, but LinkedIn was coming up quite big for us. So I think that's,
And one of the cheeky questions, which I actually love and would recommend for people, is we actually asked people to, if they felt comfortable, particularly, and this is a question for our loyalists, to write a product review in there. And it's a great way of just getting that quote. And while they're feeling good about you and because we do find it difficult sometimes to get people to do Google reviews or Facebook reviews. And sometimes it's, I don't know, whether people don't press the right button or they just don't get around to it.
It's a bit of a hassle,
Or they don't want to write about the gut symptoms, maybe.
So that was a really nice, cheeky way of saying, will you just write us a product review? And now we've got dozens of these gorgeous things people say about us. So I like that.
And the great thing about that is you get them feeding that back to you in their own language.
Yes.
And that copy becomes so valuable in its own way because you use that to describe the product back to the market, right? In people's own language. Well done. That's really cool. Is it hard getting people to respond to those surveys, or are they usually pretty happy to do it? Or
so the three segments that we went to, the loyalists obviously will write us an essay and, really keen to support small business, local business. And yes, the response rate for them is really high. Those who have only been back to us once, and we went out with this approach of, don't worry, you can't hurt our feelings.
Yep.
You just tell us what's on.
That's what you want.
You used us once. You don't like it. Just tell us why and how we could have done better and what you're currently using or what you replaced us with, or, So we went out with a very honest kind of tell us what you think. And we did put we tried to put a voucher, $50 voucher on there to incentivise people to do that. But the survey closes on Friday, so I guess we'll find out how many people responded. I think we've got about 100 so far.
Well done. That's awesome.
We would hopefully with a couple of reminders, we might get that up.
I think it's just an awesome example of being close to your customers and not being afraid of that feedback, which might hurt your feelings.
It's about growth,
that's how you're going to get better. Well done.
Yeah, we certainly said the other day that when we read the ones from the once-offers, we'll do so with chocolate and cheese in hand because you've got to have some tough skin.
Of course, but that's how you're going to get better. Josephine, you're known as a bit of a weapon when it comes to pitching, I believe. What are some practical tips you can share with people and on how to cut through with pitching and just some good tactics around that?
Yeah, look, we learnt from Jo O'Reilly during the CSIRO accelerators, and she was an opera singer
and a stand-up
comedian, but she was really great at capturing an audience. So I feel like we've had Mary and I both had some really good training from her. She was awesome, wasn't she?
Yeah.
What are some of the tips that she shared?
Look, we went through a whole range of training around, how you stand, how you project, but really it was around
how you prepare before you go out.
But how can you make a connection in the room, knowing that most of the pitching, we did a range of different styles of pitching, but we're first-time female founders. We're female founders. I'm a female of a certain age. And plus being female first time, female of a certain age, and we're in Perth. So pitching, we knew that we were going to have to do a lot of pitching. And I think we did about 60 pitches in the end to close our round.
Wow.
So it was a lot, but a big chunk of those were what we call, practice pitches where we there was this program at UWA called Venture on Campus, and we pitched to Main Sequence half a dozen times between the two of us, and we kept going back to them knowing that they would never invest in us. But VCs grill you. They give you the best questions.
Right.
And based on those questions, we'd go back and go, oh, we're going to need a slide on this, I
think, there's a sort of... there's a split there, isn't there, between those pitches that are at the big pitching events, the competitions where really you're just trying to raise awareness. We did go for the, there's ones where there can be money at the end, but a lot of that's just about presenting your idea to as wide an audience as possible, getting some recognition, getting some press. And then there's the pitches where you're actually pitching to an investor is so different. Yeah. They probably start off the same. You've got to be able to tell a story. You've got to be able to cover certain topics, the problem, the solution, size of the market, how you're going to get there, cover all of that. But you've got to have an extra layer of preparation for the real pitches to an investor. So we had this massive slide deck, didn't we? So we'd always have that, maybe the 10, 12 slides we'd actually present to start off with. And then we'd have all these backup ones that we prepared with all the extra data so that we were ready.
The real values of Q&A.
Yeah. And we did a lot of, one of the reasons we did so many pitching competitions and awards and events was we realised that, being female founders in Perth, we didn't, people would say, why don't you do a family and friends race? And we'd think, we need $2.5 million. Have you met my family? But we would go to these award events like, the Innovator of the Year, which is one of my favourite events, and we would stalk the guest list outside. We would have taken photos of that and have linked everyone, connected with everyone on LinkedIn by the end of the night. We'd find those startups that were one step ahead of us, that invite their investors to these events thinking they're going to win. We'd always win. And then we would go and stalk them and find out who they were. So Clayton's, so that's how we met Clayton's investors, who became our investors. We met people that way. Yeah. So we got good at pitching so that we could do those events.
And we love meeting the other founders as well.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah, I think there's always a couple of challenges with pitching. There's the ability to compress the really important points into either there's always a time limit or a slide limit
3 minutes
or whatever. Yeah. And so it's not really about what you are saying in that 3 minutes. It's about how you make people feel and the impact that you're making, and then the ability to get those quality questions, which an investor on the edge or is sort of like wants to go that next step into what you're doing.
There's an argument that some of the accelerators spend way too much time on pitching, and I can kind of see that. Are you trying to teach somebody to be an entertainer on the stage, or are you actually trying to teach somebody how to get investment? There's a balance. There is a fine balance.
And I always, I was at Ignition recently talking about pitching, and I always say to the people who are preparing these 10-minute pitches, talk less.
Yeah, talk slower.
Talk less.
Slowly.
And listen more, because the value is in that Q&A. So if they've given you 10 minutes to pitch and 10-minute Q&A, talk for 7 minutes, talk for 5 minutes, because then you can actually have you're not just talking one way at someone, you're actually starting a dialogue.
Yep.
And that's where the connection actually happens.
That's what they say about investors. They invest in the team, not the product necessarily or the business. And you guys are testament to that, the ability to persevere when, one trajectory needs to be changed, pivoted or whatever. It's the team that's going to make that happen and have the, the perseverance to follow through and solve your problem in a different way, perhaps, potentially. So, yeah, well done. What could possibly be next for the future for you two?
Well, it's more products in the gut health space, I think.
Yeah, I think we're at a really interesting T section, probably another cliff facing us at the moment. What do you do when you've started a functional food business? We're at capacity, we're doing well, but...
Definitely got product market fit.
We've got product market fit, we love it, our customers love it, but how do you scale? And all of a sudden it looks like a big cliff and a big drop. How do you know when to jump? How do you know when your margins are big enough? How do you know that your customers will keep with you if the economy turns down? How do you know when there are no guarantees and there's not a manual? So I think we're at seeing another cliff face at the moment, and we're calling 1, 2, 3.
Exciting. And that's the real thing about growing business, is you're never quite 100% sure, are you? And if you are 100% sure, you've probably waited too late to make the call.
Yeah.
So it's that growth happens in those moments of uncertainty. It feels a little bit crazy, but you kind of back yourself.
Yeah, founders
Just
are
give it
nuts,
a
aren't
go.
they? They just love that kind
Founders
of
are
adrenaline.
nuts.
Rush of, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
What is the one big piece of advice that you have for founders looking to grow?
Just one. Oh my God.
You do
One each, given you've both.
I'm going to be very, very boring and say know your numbers. Know your numbers.
What do
That's
you
so
mean by
boring.
that?
I mean, know all your costs, know your unit economics, know how long your runway is, know your margins for where you are now and where you're going, as you scale up. Does it work when you're just getting something out fast and iterating and testing product market fit? And does it also work when you're working, in our case it would be, with a massive contract manufacturer, when there's a distributor in there as well, maybe when there's a big Woolies or Coles taking their big chunk. Do your numbers actually work? And I think that's, if you've got investors, that can be good. They'll always keep you focused on that. Whereas if you're bootstrapping, maybe the temptation is to step away from that, and you've got to kind of keep your rigor up on that front too, I think.
Super underrated comment, actually. I don't think anyone's ever answered that question with a hard and fast numbers answer.
Oh, okay.
So that's great.
I think my advice would be to make sure that if you're a sole founder, you're not just stuck inside your head, or even with a co-founder, that you don't fall into groupthink. I think there's been a tendency over COVID to, isolate, to bunker down. We're not going out as much. You tend not to network as much. And therefore, you're not challenging your mindset. You're not having those conversations. Hey, my brother-in-law's got a facility, blah, blah, blah. But there's this tendency, Mary and I have talked about this idea of productive procrastination. We can make ourselves really, really busy.
Yep.
But what are you focusing on, that flywheel that actually moves it forward, or are you just being busy? Yeah. So I'd say to founders, don't isolate yourself at home. Don't just listen to the voices inside your own head, although they might be friendly. I'd be going out and networking with other startup founders. There's such a great mob, and we're really blessed that all of the they're such a generous mob. When I think about the startups that we still catch up with for drinks, they're an awesome bunch, and they're going through what you're going through, just in slightly different industries, I guess.
Yeah, we've met founders in all sorts of spaces. So the founder community, but then both have done the AICD.
Company directors.
I met an amazing founder, very generous with her time afterwards, who's in that food space as well. So remember, we've moved from different spaces, so...
Yeah, and I recently did the Seed Lab with Woolworths,
their
boot camp, and I really enjoyed meeting different food producers in a whole range of, packaged goods. It was great to meet others.
That's one other question I wanted to ask. You mentioned 20% of your market at the moment is sort of wholesaling out to retail stores and IGAs and things like that. What's that process like?
Well, initially it was... Hey, why don't we just rock up to this IGA and see how this works? Like, hi.
How did that pan out?
Well, it turns out that your pitch isn't 3 sentences. It's not the Gaddy style pitch. It's you have 1 sentence, and the floor manager or the category manager is probably stacking a shelf. So they're not even concentrating. You're just kind of, hey, you want my product? What's it? Blah, 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 blah. So we certainly had to get better at that pitch.
1 sentence pitch.
The 1 sentence pitch.
So is that really how it works? You can approach a floor manager at a shop and they can decide what goes on the shelves.
That's what we did.
We're now heading for more chains and things.
Not for Woolworths and Coles, some of those big ones, but certainly we've just rocked down to the local IGA. They love us because we're local.
Yep.
But we literally
Having said that should be one of my pieces of advice would be see how you can create processes that do things at scale. So we are starting to think, can we go to the head of a pharmacy chain, for example, and talk to that? We're taking that on board. But I guess,
Yeah,
experiment.
we literally went door to door.
Just like doing experiments, trying.
No way.
Things.
I would have thought it would have been, you have to get introduced to some sort of buying office somewhere that decides what goes on shelves, and maybe that's the case for Coles and Woolies.
Yeah,
for some organisations it is, because at a big grocery store, for your product to go on the shelf, they have to take a product off. So there is a process there. But with the IGAs, they just seem to make space. Yeah, we can fit that in. Oh, bonus. Let's see how it goes. And then it's around, how do you support that retailer? Yeah. What can you do to drive, and you're kind of in competition, because you want customers to come to us, because obviously we get better margins if they buy directly. But we want other people to retailers, sell for us. And it's not a product that suits in-store tasting, because a lot of stores don't have wash-up facilities available, in the middle of the store. So we had to be quite creative, which is why we've brought along some protein balls today. Oh. You have to be quite creative about, we want you to try a product. It's weird to have a protein shake. Here, have a protein ball. So we've been doing protein balls in stores instead.
Wonderful. So that's literally just samples. You can stand at a little
table
and hey, would you like to try a protein
Walk
ball?
Up and down the aisles with protein balls. And it's a good way of, if you situate yourself just at the front of the health food store aisle, so you can see people interacting with other products. What are they picking up off the shelf? Are they picking up your product? Are they walking past it? Because there must be, 5,000 products in that aisle. Yep. And yours has to come out and whack someone over the head. Is it doing that? Where are people stopping and why?
Nice.
So, you learn a lot.
So that's a great tip for founders, I think, is find your little table in, the sample table, the equivalent to that in your market, and find your protein ball in your sample and find where your market is.
Yeah, because you learn so... I think with the protein ball, the reason I like that, when we're at the markets as well, people immediately put it in their mouth, which is great. So you get immediate feedback.
That's what you do with protein balls.
Yeah. And it just also emphasises the fact that the product doesn't just have to be used in a shake. You can put it in a smoothie, you can put it in a protein ball, you can put it in your oats, you can bake with it, so the probiotic in there stays live and active even if you've baked it.
And we've been constantly amazed where we've put a sample, a single serve of Super Flora, in a gift bag at an event, and then 3 months later or 4 months later, people have come back and said, I just used your product the other day, and I'm thinking... Well, it's not, the thing about having something people can taste immediately is you get immediate feedback, not 3 months later.
So clever. It's hard not to admire your hustle, ladies. It's so impressive.
Hustle.
So we're getting close to the end of the episode. One thing that we do on Weird Growth is show and tell time, which is your favourite tool, device, toy, whatever it is that makes your life better, makes you a better professional or a better startup founder.
My laptop.
I think it's probably one of the things that Jürgen taught us was around having this chain, think that flow, this comms flow that we've got going every month that we love, where we write a blog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading your mind here. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. So we write a blog.
Yep.
We do Facebook ads to the blog, and all we're doing is offering value.
Yep.
We offer value, and then, and you can sign up for our ebook. Then we've got your email. Then we're in MailChimp, and you get these series of emails and a couple of call to actions, and we will convert you. So
we might take the same piece of copy, so like a long blog, and that becomes, our social media posts. It would be used in the advert. You'd be using the newsletter. Be using adverts. It would be one piece of work, and we just keep.
Yeah. So I don't know if we didn't have MailChimp, life would be much harder, or Klaviyo or something like that.
Yes.
I think that would be...
Those marketing automation tools are just incredible, aren't they? Yeah. And that's really genius advice too, is have that sort of cornerstone piece of content, your blog article, and chunking that down, and you can repurpose that in so many different ways, on so many different channels. Yeah. It's really clever. Yeah. Is that what you would have said too, Mary, your favourite tool?
That's our favourite. My favourite strategy is that, taking that one piece of content and reusing it. Favourite tool.
That's what we do for Weird Growth, by the way.
Yeah.
So we chunk down little snippets and things, and we use that through.
I have my little strategy as well, is that as soon as I open Google or whatever, actually it works in Internet Explorer as well. Whatever I open, it automatically opens with the back end of Facebook Manager, my Google Analytics, and getting into the back of our website as well. So everything it's there, and I can quickly just start the day by just seeing what's happening.
Love
just
it.
Always being on top of the data.
Yeah. Do you use the little pinned tabs in the
Yep.
top left? Yep. Yep. Very good.
Yeah, I like that on my phone.
That's nice.
We use Stripe, and so I like opening the Stripe app and just seeing how we're going for the month.
Little dopamine hit of
it's a little
revenue.
dopamine hit. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's lovely. Well, final plug or ask, if anyone's interested in Super Flora, what should they do?
Go to our website, noisyguts.com, and find out more. And there's more than just the product in there. We're always trying to offer value and build a community. So there's lots of health tips, mostly gut health tips, but stuff around sleep, stuff around the Mediterranean diet, lots of value bombs in there.
Yeah, so one of the things we've always tried to do is to use our academic background to translate science into plain English summaries that people can, find out what's happening with the latest medical trials, but actually put some practical strategies, what you can take away from this.
Love it.
And we've got a great growing Facebook community.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting a gut health challenge together this month.
Brilliant.
Join us on Facebook or on the website, and I think that's
noisyguts.com.
Noisyguts.com.
Beautiful.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Josephine, Dr. Mary. It was wonderful having you both on. It was a really interesting chat, learned so much, and again, just really admire your hustle. I think founders can learn a lot from what you guys have done and what you continue to do, and can't wait to see future success. So well done. Thanks for being on Weird Growth.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening to this episode of Weird Growth. I'm Cam Sinclair. This episode's brought to you by Ammo Marketing. And if you enjoyed today, please do subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube. We do film this in video. If you're listening on audio, check out the video on YouTube or on Spotify. Leave a review and subscribe. And until next time, bye-bye.